guys. Welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, and I'm joined by Matt and Shad. And this is our first ever YouTube live stream.
It is. Hello, everybody. For all of you who are out there listening and whoever might join us, thank you for being here.
Are we entering the world of content creating live streaming?
Yes. Yes.
For those who know, should we totally do like old school like radio style? It's like every time someone listens, there are new listeners. But like,
yes,
we've been actually doing this podcast for a long time, or the show for a long time.
We too can now have a doc. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say we too can now have a Turkey Tom documentary done about us.
Yeah. Yeah, but we've been doing this show for a long time, and now we're finally live streaming to YouTube. But I think we can we are or can record the audio, so it can still show up on people's favorite platforms.
Yep.
Yeah, if you listen to this on the audio stream, there might be a couple of hiccups the first week, so we're trying some things. Because you see the little bear with the microphone, that's recording. So if you listen on the audio feed, this should not affect you whatsoever.
No, I've used this particular plugin for recording before, and it's not been an issue. But we'll get there.
Yeah, and this is going to be a work in progress. Like I've done a couple video game ones. I learned some of the quirks of like pre-programming this. But we'll do this every week. If we do a double record for the audio feed, like we might just come on and screw around to keep like the weekly schedule on those off weeks. Probably not around Christmas. But this is kind of what we're going to do going forward. We will, if the chat brings up a good point during these, we will talk about it, but I don't want to focus on that. Because like I said, what I hate is when podcasts you listen to go to this format and they ruin it by going too visual. I don't want to do that. That's
fair. That's fair.
So, gentlemen, how are you this week? It's been very cold where I live.
It's that time of year where it's like, I guess kind of, well, not even early spring. We're like a month into spring, but it's that point where it's like it'll be like 80 degrees one day, and then it'll drop down to like 60 the next day. And so it's like you have to literally like just look and see what the weather's going to be like that day to figure out how to dress appropriately.
Yeah.
But I'm appreciating that it's not like freezing cold anymore.
Yeah.
But I also don't. I said before, like I don't want this to be like this one of those weird weather patterns that we've had, where it's like we get like 2 weeks of spring, and then it's like no, I don't want that. Maybe like July.
Yeah.
It's nice because, again, it's not freezing cold, which I don't do well with. But we're in. I call it the sinus season because the bouncing back and forth messes with your sinuses, and then the allergies are trying to bloom. But truth be told, I had a great day today. Work was really good today, and then I had some fantastic rancher fries from a great food truck with a great beer from a local brewery. I'm sated and happy. So
you also got your BattleTech stuff from me.
Oh, I did. Man, I cannot begin to tell you how happy I am that I've got I got that stuff in. There's things I am looking forward to painting on that. So
what I'm gonna tell you what I'm excited about. What's the local brewery that you had a beer from?
It is called Dreaming Creek. They have something called a Millstone Lager, and it is a lager that it's almost kind of like a nice light cerveza, so it's not like super, there's not a lot of bitter to it. There's just a touch of sweet. It's just all the flavors come together very nicely. So
I appreciate that because I do not like IPAs. So
IPAs are
the last
Matt,
IPAs are
they've ruined. I have deep thoughts about IPAs. I feel like they have ruined the craft beer scene.
I feel like an IPA is like the label you slap on like a batch you fucked up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Matt taught me the correct way to serve IPA. Do you remember that, Matt?
Pour it right out. Right in the
You're
tray.
holding-
Right this thing.
You put it in the fridge. You get it good and cold, to where it's not quite frozen, but it's almost there. You take it out of the fridge, you crack it open, and then you walk over and pour it down
Yeah,
the
exactly.
sink was the
Exactly.
and it was
I swear to God, it's because actual like craft breweries, like microbreweries, everything, like they essentially like they don't have to put in the effort. So they like just throw in a ton of hops to make it as bitter as possible. And I see so many people that just they love it. It's like, it's terrible, terrible. So I found a nice lager.
I can't remember I can't remember where I heard it, but I won't go through all of it. But it was the joke was it was off in the future. There's this old sage talking. No, there were people called hipsters that used typewriters instead of computers and would drink expensive coffee and rant about capitalism on their slave labor produced cellular phones. And they would drink IPAs. What's an IPA? It's a beer that's bitter and not worth drinking, yet they convinced themselves that it was the best thing they had ever tasted. What's a dumb point in history? Yes, it is.
They also like to simp for very large corporations while complaining about capitalism. Okay, so I'll say a rabbit stupidly decided to have babies under a tree in the yard, so I had to put a gate up to keep the dogs away from the wee little baby rabbits.
Oh, that would have been
because one already perished at the hands of Winnie.
Oh man, your dogs are kind of like just absolute serial killer monsters.
They're like newborns.
The small animal population.
they're like newborns, so like she just picked it up and it was done. So, but
yeah,
but I mean, Junebug's a cocker spaniel and a poodle, so those are both hunting animals. Like, because I've owned poodles before, and if you want something that murders everything, then get a poodle.
That's because poodles are the breed that has the chip on their shoulder all the time.
Yeah, well, they were the ones. No, that was Dachshunds were the ones that they bred to go in the holes after stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Dachshunds are like insane like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think isn't there some sort of statistic out there that Dachshunds are like up there with like the dog that will actually has the most like recorded incidents?
Chihuahuas are the ones that
like
bite
biting
those.
people.
No, but Justin, friend of the show, Justin said he saw it was a fairly big dog. It was like a husky got taken down by like a pack of dachshunds or something.
Oh wow.
Gee. All right.
So then this week for our go ahead, man.
Can I try something? Hold on. Will this play? Did that play?
Yes.
Friend of the show.
Yeah.
I don't know how we have a soundboard, but there's like
every Discord
soundboard.
server has a soundboard.
Yeah.
They all
I need
have
to mess
one.
with it.
So
Shucky ducky quack quack.
Shucky ducky
gosh.
quack quack. Yep.
And there's a sad horn.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna
right,
play that.
so
I'm gonna play that
that's
later
enough.
when we do the Triple H match.
yeah. Oh God. I'm glad that's last because So this week, obviously the programming hype. So we are looking at Kurt Angle's pre-WWE work. So this primarily involves Power Pro Wrestling from Memphis. That's kind of like the spiritual successor to the USWA. And it was like Randy Hales' promotion. And infamously went off the air over the shown. I should have done it put it on the show just so we could laugh. The Doug Gilbert shoot interview where he calls like Jerry Lawler a pedophile and that Randy Hales is doing crack, and he did it live on air, which got them like booted. So that's kind of how that ended. So, but we're going to actually go to ECW first. So they bring Kurt Angle out, kind of introduce him, and then they have little Guido come out, and he like shares his like I guess respect for him, and then Taz comes out like as the clip kind of goes to black. So I guess they did like an angle. He did not wrestle here because I looked up his match history. He wrestled starting this like New England promotion. Wrestling Tom Pritchard was his first match. Because he was on actually the NWA 50th anniversary show.
Really?
because that's where
Okay.
I got a match I want to do next week, which is well, in a couple weeks or soon, which is a 30-minute Dan Severn versus Lord Steven Regal match for the NWA title. But so this kind of, I guess they were gonna sign him or train him at some point, and then they did the crucifixion angle with Sandman and Raven, which kind of messed the deal up.
Yeah, I remember that story that Angle was very unhappy with it and wouldn't work there.
Yeah, because
The
if Heyman can do one thing, it's mess a deal up.
the funny thing about this clip is they bring Angle out, and he is very much like through all of these, Angle is very much in the aw shucks kind of good old boy, not really good old boy, the aw shucks, kind of baby face phase on it. And it's just really like I get it. He's excited to be there, and they're portraying him that way, but it seems
He's kind of doing
very
the
out of place.
all-American boy.
Yeah, but it seems very out of place in an ECW ring, to me anyway.
Yeah, I thought so too. But ECW is a weird dichotomy of that at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have done fine, just because I mean they did sort of respect work rate in that promotion. But I just think it's funny that the one thing you can depend on is for Paul Heyman to screw something up.
He does a really good job at that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know, like, how. I guess he was so talented, I guess you could say, but that would have been a really weird combination. Or
I think
if Angle actually came up in ECW, it's like
I think it would have been a net
can't quite see
negative
it.
for him, because
Yeah.
they would have bred some like bad habits into him, I think. And like I think Memphis was a really good place for him, because like it helps him with like narrative and psychology. And like when we get to the Power Pro stuff, they do a really good job of just protecting him and like taking it slow with him.
Mhm.
Through the whole thing, there's a few aspects of Kurt Angle that I watch and go, okay, this stays rather consistent. Angle, one thing that I noticed from beginning to end, Angle has always thrown a punch the exact same way. He throws a punch with his right hand, his left foot forward, and he pops his feet whenever he swings it. And it's always coming in with his hand kind of laterally flat whenever it comes in. And you can't ever tell exactly what part of it's hitting. Another thing that happened is that Angle's, at least through these first few clips, with the exception of the last one, the Triple H match, his movements also remain consistent. I almost said static, but that wouldn't be accurate. The way that Angle does a belly to belly is always the same, which is that it was more of the Magnum TA style. Hook him, lift, turn, so it is a belly to belly rotate suplex. In his older years, they became belly to belly overhead, and he didn't have to be so clean on that. He had to give you enough lift for you to get over him, but you're the one that had to push yourself over and bump for it. And like you said, it's kind of a shame because that his side belly to belly is really good.
Yeah.
It is kind of a hallmark that he's very much a rookie whenever the side belly to belly is his finish. But he does it very. It's very much like Greco-Roman takedowns. He's using a lot of the same muscle memory for it, so it's very good, very crisp, very impressive.
Yeah, and so we go to the next. This is his second ever match. I should have looked to see if the Tom Pritchard match was out there, because I would be interested to see what that looked like. So this is him versus Shawn Stasiak from some New England promotion, because the Boston came out in the announcer's voice a couple times, which the announcer's god awful in this. Like, could you at least fake that you cared?
Yeah, Shad and I were talking about this earlier, and he is just an absolute terrible. This is if you've ever heard the infamous clip, and boom goes the dynamite, like with the guy's like giving the most low energy like read of stuff. It's like
Yeah.
that. Like the guy's terrible. Like we've talked about bad analysis before, like commentators. Like I feel like any one of us could do a better job, and I'm not saying like any of us are particularly competent in that. We've just been like fans of wrestling and watched wrestling for so many years. It's like we could like at least fake it, at least like give at least something comparable to energy.
We could have a pulse.
Doing this.
All you have to do is, as the announcer, there's two big things. The way I look at it is, number one, you have to put enthusiasm into it, because if you're bored watching the match, that boredom's going to carry over to whoever's watching what you're doing. And two, you have to make sure that the story they're telling in the ring is getting translated properly. That's part of what I hated about Vince and his style of commentary. Is, number one, he told people, don't do play-by-play, they're watching the match. It's like, you idiot. Baseball does play-by-play, and they're watching the game. And then number two, it would get so caught up in sidebars and other stuff going on. And Nitro got into a bad habit of doing this too
Or
for
they
a
just
while.
be talking about the main event. It's like, could you talk about the match
Yeah.
you're doing? Now, I don't 100% disagree with Vince, because there's points, and Excalibur can drive me nuts with this, where the match is getting really heated and he's still like giving you the exact technical term of like a move as it's happening at like a really intense moment, and it's like, could you just chill? Like, you're kind of taking me out of it.
I would rather have Excalibur do that than I would have go the other way. And I know it's not perfect, but if you're going to fall on either side of the happy medium, I would rather it be done Excalibur's way.
Older Vince by himself is better though, because like there's some stuff we've watched with like older Vince where he like really gives you like the background detail. Like, he's never been like a great like play-by-play guy, but sometimes he's a really good like detail guy of like connecting pieces and parts for you. But I have a problem with a lot of announcers though. Like, I would take Vince over Gordon Soley though. Gordon Soley just puts me to sleep.
No question about it.
Yeah. I never got him. Go ahead, Matt.
I was never a Gordon guy. I think I said that before.
I've seen
we talked about that on the show
Florida
before.
stuff I've liked, but like some of the stuff we've gotten into like in the mid 80s and later, like he's just sloshed on a lot of it. Because there was something we watched. What was it we watched? Oh, it was one of the Rip Rogers and Adrian Street matches. He was just like slurring his words and stuff, and like the crowds were like cheering him and it was working, but you could tell he wasn't comfortable with it, because he was like look, we know he likes dick, but he's all man, like, I swear. And he didn't need to do that. Like, he was bugging me on that stuff.
I've not been a Soley fan either. It's just, I know that some people grew up with his even kind of gravelly tone and everything, but it's just, there's no hype in it. And that's a really, really big deal, at least in my opinion, as an announcer.
He shows more energy in like Florida when I've seen like stuff from the 70s with him. But like, I mean, it just, for me, like the top Mount Rushmore of like play-by-play is Jim Ross, like Lance Russell, and Tony Schiavone.
I really, really like. I know people dogged on him for years, but I liked how Schiavone did stuff. Because he had a good mix of play-by-play and hype man stuff going on.
I've actually been a Tony Schiavone fan, and maybe that's because like growing up, I preferred WCW. So I always had kind of an affinity for Tony. And then obviously when I got older, I watched a lot of like the Jim Crockett stuff. So I still love Tony, but I would probably rank. I'd probably rank like golden era classic Jim Ross as my top.
Yeah, there's just something. He did so much so well, like especially like when he's paired with like a heel and stuff, like his digs and stuff are really good.
See, I probably would differ than most people out there, because they'd be like, oh yeah, like Attitude Era Jim Ross. I'm like, no. Like it actually, like everything pre WWF / WWE was when he was great. like after that, it's like he has not been
Once the
as
first
good. Like
Bell's palsy like incident, I think
yeah,
he had to wrap. And I mean, I don't blame him for that. Like that's tough.
yeah.
And
I'm
like
not saying he's
even
terrible, but like I think his best stuff was like 80s, early to mid 90s,
even
and
AEW, I
people
thought
disagree, but
even AEW, I thought he was fairly bad for most of it. But like I understood, like
yeah,
he lost. I mean that's the thing. I was really patient with him about is I think people forget he lost his wife horrifically.
Yeah.
and he's been really struggling battling skin cancer that seems to kind of keep
Yeah.
recurring.
And I
He
mean,
goes through like remissions, so that's positive, but
Yeah.
like he's been through a lot. He's been through a
and
lot.
I mean
I
I think he's admitted that he's been self-medicating for a long time with alcohol too. So
He did that in his grief, yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
It was really bad. Um, and
because
I would say,
I think I don't remember the exact details, but I think his wife was like on a scooter and got hit by a car or something as well.
Yeah, I think the person who hit her, if I recall correctly, and I might not be, but I think that he was young. I think it
Probably.
was a
Yeah, I
boy.
think so.
I think it was
Yeah.
young, like maybe like a teenager or in his 20s, like and kids drive stupidly sometimes, which is not excuse to obviously vehicular manslaughter, but I
And
think it was.
people are really bad about awareness of motorcycles and stuff like that too.
Like little anecdotal thing, my wife like last year had to like renew her license, and because her license is from like a different state, she needed to basically renew it online, but she never was able to. And so it was too long that she actually had to actually physically go to the state. She's from
Wow.
Texas, so she had to physically go to Texas and take like the driving test. So she had to fly all the way back to back home to Texas, like take the driving test like in person. And they also now have like a bunch of like videos she had to watch and like classes and stuff.
Ooh,
She had to
really?
watch this video. Yeah, she had to watch like this video on like, or maybe a couple different videos on the perils of like texting and driving.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
And
becoming a big deal.
yeah, but she became like she became horrified. It's like, oh my God. It's like, and she would tell like real life stories that I guess that were shared in the video where it's like it's like, oh yeah, I was texting and driving, then like this kid plowed into and killed a family of four or something really horrifically tragic.
That's a
But
bit
yeah, like I
much,
guess
but
that's
it's
like
a
a big thing.
problem. Like I work in the claims department of the insurance industry, and like the severity of injuries because of texting has gotten a lot worse. And if people want like people that want to bitch about like, well, my rates went up and I didn't do anything, it's like, well, tell everyone to stop texting because that's why your insurance costs so much. Because like what used to be like a $5,000 or $10,000 payout for a bodily injury is like 50,000 now because it's so much worse. And so yeah, that's why everyone's insurance rates are going up
Mm.
because every
but
insurance industry is losing its every insurance company is losing its ass on auto is pretty much why because of texting.
Yeah.
what I was going to go back over to the original point of where we were with Jim Ross is I think Attitude Era Jim Ross is pretty darn good,
He
but
fits the era, but I don't think like I think if you transposed him into any other era of wrestling, I think I think it wouldn't work. I think people would really not like it. I think that loud boisterous thing worked for that specific era.
yeah, he fit the era, and that's great. But he is not benefiting because he is being compared to a more superlative form of him from another time. So,
Yeah.
but again, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah.
So,
That's why Joey Styles doesn't work outside of like ECW in the 90s. Like he's really kind of cringe when you go back like
I
honestly.
mean, it's another one of those things. It fit at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and then he did a little bit after that, and it was fine. But people wanted that his idiosyncrasies from ECW stuff, and it's like, let's leave that in the past. But they didn't want to leave it alone. So
Yeah, ECW's a little too of its time, and I think people are starting to understand that better now. But you get like those people that were super into it that don't like get like, well, no, you can't concuss people on a weekly basis. Like you can't have that drug culture, and it's
Mm.
like you can't treat women like that on like a weekly basis and not get like thrown off of everything.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of ECW. At the time, like I was real big into it, and I don't think it held up, and I don't like to really go back and watch it because I
I've
feel like it just the quality is like really actually bad outside of some of the stuff they did later on when obviously you had really talented workers like Jerry Lynn and Tajiri and RVD like putting on good stuff together.
I
But
tell
overall,
myself I'm going to, but like there's just something about like especially the unprotected chair shots. And honestly, the more Memphis I've watched is like I think Memphis just did it better.
yeah.
The unprotected chair shots just like I didn't like it at the time, but now I can't bear to watch it. It's knowing the toll that the price that comes with doing that is just it's too much for
How
me.
how many of them are dead too, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So what did you guys think of the Shawn Stasiak match? I thought it was for his second match ever. I thought um he did okay. Like they kept it pretty simple. He had a couple of little rough spots, but like I didn't think there was anything egregiously bad. And I thought I think what I took away from this in this match kind of showed it is when Dave Meltzer and like a lot of those guys get all excited because like there's an amateur wrestler coming over to the WWE, like this really showed me what the difference between like athleticism. I mean, he had athleticism. Let's not say otherwise, but like it shows me what aptitude means versus just pure athleticism. Like you have to have aptitude.
Yeah, watching this, Angle got it. Angle very clearly got it. As opposed to, God, didn't even Rulon Gardner try to get into professional wrestling for a stretch?
think
Or am I
so.
thinking of somebody else? Like, just because you have done something that has the same name does,
Yeah.
just because you play football in America doesn't mean you're going to be able to play football overseas. Now that's a bigger difference, but the thing one of the things that I took out of watching this whole thing is since Kurt Angle had performed at such a high level in front of such large groups, that he was very comfortable being out there in front of a lot of people. And so he wasn't rattled by, he goes out there and it's his second or whatever, one of his first 10 matches. He's not worried about that. So he's not stressed out. He's not distracted, which is great. Watching that second match, there are a few things I looked at and I was kind of like, oh, because it's just things that come with ring time. The one that stood out to me the most is that whenever he would hit the ropes, he would not hit the ropes with his back. He kept hitting them on his right side with his the muscle that's right under your arm and across his ribs and his liver. And I know like Foley's story was he kept hitting the ropes with his liver so he would piss blood. Like he did not turn. Yeah, you're running into steel cables and then having them snap back and throw you. There's a certain callus you have to build up with your body before it doesn't leave bruises on you. Like that, just running the ropes, leaving bruises on you. But obviously, he got better at it. But in that first match, every time he'd hit the ropes, I'd kind of wince a little bit. Because it's like, please don't, please. And then his knee, wearing knee pads, starting to wear knee pads was like a big win. And
Yeah, you wince every time we watch a Harley race match and he's out there with nothing.
people not wearing knee pads make me cringe. Also, God, Darby Allin just makes me. Oh, I spend half the time just kind of wincing from it. Also, Angle eventually ditched his weird like bondage looking singlet.
That weird one he had in some of them, yeah, I don't know. The one the sparkly one, the sparkly
No,
one.
it was black, but instead of being like a singlet, the straps would come down and meet on his sternum and then go straight down from there. And it's like it's like a.
That's why I don't borrow gear from Bill Eadie.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's like a demolition cosplay singlet. It's like that's not the most flattering look for you.
Yeah. It was fine. I thought the announcer was really terrible. There was only one of these early matches I felt like had some issues. And we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
this is the only non-Power Pro we have of like his early stuff that's not the last match. So the next one is his debut in Power Pro Wrestling. So he comes out and he cuts a promo. It's kind of like the stuff he was cutting in WWE when he started out. And then he wrestles a masked jobber. I don't remember the jobber's name. I should have checked. I don't even know if they gave him a name. So pretty much this one is he hits the belly to belly and pins the guy like instantly.
Or something like that.
No, hold on. Let me look this up.
Okay, Matt's got it.
Because there is like a. Sorry, this is gonna take me a minute.
I could probably look on Cage Match, but yeah, it was a very like the second you saw him, like, oh, this guy's getting murdered.
Yeah. You they were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna see how fast I can win this match. And it's like, it's Kurt Angle versus the Masked Loser, and the guy's like, I'm gonna do my job, and then he did his job in record time.
It's like it's Kurt Angle versus Bob.
There's a great K. Trevor Wilson bit about that. You never want to be the guy in the ring that gets the introduction and already in the ring, because already in the ring, Steve, and you knew that Yokozuna was going to break every one of Steve's ribs. Like, you just knew it was coming. There was no hope for Steve.
You know what upsets me currently, and why like current wrestling fans upset me at times, is like the people that dog on Serpentico. And it's like he is legit. He's literally a jobber. Like they complain about him being a good jobber. It's like, no, he's supposed to be less than. Like, he's supposed to be pathetic.
Yeah. The joke is that he is. I'll be honest with you, he's a very charismatic, energetic loser. But he's Serpentico is a loser, and it's fun because he finds ways to make it not just, oh, I got squashed. Then, Nyla Rose repeatedly, just murdering him on social media.
There was a dark where it was like his birthday, the announcer said, and he was wrestling Lance Archer, and he like puffs his chest out. He like walks up to him and he proceeds to just get murdered. But no, there's people like, they're like, why is like, and it's like their complaints, and it's like people like Cornette that do it, and it's like, no, you're literally complaining about him being a good jobber. Like, would you say this about like the Mulkeys back in the day? Like,
I was gonna bring that up. It's like, dude, you grew up like you cut your teeth back in like Jim Crockett and other places where it's like that the stars actually just murdering jobbers was the thing. That's how you got over. And it's like, just because he has a name, that only means like and like a face, like a gimmick, that only means that he's essentially like the AEW equivalent of like Blur or Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker or Gilbert or something like that. Like he's people don't understand, and then this is kind of like, well, I don't want to segue into a different point, but this is like a point that people have. It's like I understand in today's day and age you have favorites, but there's so many people that it's like, oh, bullshit, like so and so lost a match, like they're getting buried. It's like, no, they're not. Not everyone can actually be champion. Like, they can't.
No.
So a guy losing, sometimes even losing frequently, doesn't necessarily mean that they're buried. Some guys can lose all the time and can still actually like come out ahead. Like, we talked on the show about Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is a guy that they've given more they've given titles to recently. They've actually had him win stuff, but it's like, yeah, Eddie Kingston can lose a bunch of times.
Well, I mean,
because his persona is like he's the bum, he's the king of the bums, but he can talk his way out of all of that. Like, there are other people that, like, if they lose, not the world, they can't all chant, they all like have a spotless win record. In today's day, you need to create that I love these jobbers. Like, they need it. Like, that
Yeah.
There are guys who are out there that's their purpose to eat pins.
Well,
Like, sorry, like
look
that's
at
just the reality of the business.
look at Darby though. They jobbed. People forget that. Like he lost his way up the card until he didn't lose anymore. Like until he won the
Eh,
TNT title, like he progressed up the card by losing.
Well, it's especially the whole argument is especially like to me like really relevant in the moment because we are now like 48 hours after like Swerve won the AEW title, and that's a guy who over the last like couple of years like lost a bunch of times. He lost a bunch of times. And DDC, like people were like, oh, people were complaining a little bit, but it's also like, yeah, the guy just picked himself up, dust himself off, knew what the end goal was, got himself ridiculously over to the point where people were like, clamoring for the guy to win the title, and he did.
But I
And it's
think
all perfectly organic. And it's like, yeah, that guy understood. That guy's actually really good at this whole pro wrestling thing. He understood it's like it doesn't matter if I lose matches. That what matters is Sting just gave a whole speech for his retirement. It's like it doesn't matter if you lose. Like it's okay to lose. Like he was fine losing. He even wanted to lose his last match, and he got talked out of it. It's fine if you lose. It depends on how you lose and what's done with you.
well, I
There
think,
is an
like-
art. There is an
Mhm.
art to being a good jobber. There's an art to being able to lose well. Consider for one of the show's favorites in Arn Anderson. He won plenty, but he did not beat top guys. There is an art to
Mhm.
losing well. And if
Arn-
you're really good at it, like Terry Funk warned Scott Hall, don't be too good at losing because that's all you'll ever do, because you make people look really good when you do it. And there's a lot to be said for somebody that can make anybody look good.
Mhm.
Like that's a skill. It's not just like, oh, he loses all the time. It's like, no. Arn calls them carpenters in the industry, people who build things up without getting all the flash.
he also makes an interesting point that he thinks when you really think about it, the jobbers are kind of the most admirable person on the card because they come out there every week and get their ass beat, but they come back like trying to get like that elusive win and like keep trying, and he talked about that. But an interesting point though to this is losses are important because there's the whole hero's journey, and like loss from our old buddy lost from PWO, who we've been on message boards on and off with him for 20 years. But he pointed out during like the heyday of like the Roman backlash that part of the Roman backlash is the WWE never let you like share in a struggle or like a journey with him. They just wanted him to be there at the end. That's kind of the problem Ray had in the sequel trilogy. Like look at like Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, and the first time he fights Darth Vader, he gets just owned. Loses
He's
his hand.
scrappy, but he is way out of his depth.
Yeah, and like that's like that adds like an element to it. It shows like Luke's progression when you get to the next movie, and Vader's still kind of better, but like Luke kind of just has a little more edge to him that puts him over the top. But like so like take Adam Page for instance. Like I think why Adam Page got such a connection is because of his like defeats and his setbacks and his losses. Like if you don't do those things, it causes issues. Like if you want to see a burial, which I think people haven't seen in a while, look at like Seth Rollins during the build up to Mania. That's burying someone.
Oh yeah, he got treated like a total geek.
Oh yeah.
There is
Can I make
robbing
Okay.
the credibility from somebody. Look, if you get beat by somebody who's got your number, then you just get beat by somebody who's got your number. That happens in MMA all the time. There are some people who were great, and then there's just that one guy that always had you figured out, and you couldn't get over him. But that's not a problem. That's just how it is. And you can do that in wrestling too. You can be scrappy and fight and claw and almost get it, but still not win. Yeah, you said Hangman was great for it because Hangman's struggles were you could identify with Hangman's struggles. it was not this nebulous, well, gosh darn, I wasn't good enough. What was that promo he said? I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I can't sleep, I have to win this, you know.
Yeah.
And so many people at home are like,
isn't working.
yeah, so many people at home are like, damn, I know how that feels. Like, you know, and that was, he had to, Dusty Rose's favorite way of putting it, as I remember, was, you gotta get waltzed across Texas, Daddy. Like, you remember the story about Bob Holly was making the pitch to be the champion? Like, well, okay, Bob, we make you champion, then what? And he goes, I beat everybody. It's like, that's, first of all, no. Second, that is boring. You know, I win the title and just beat everybody. It's like, well, then what do you do with it? No one's going to watch that. It's boring. As opposed to, you know, the chase.
Someone needs to rip off his super heavyweight gimmick where he came down with like the scale and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was always fun. So the next match we have. Okay, so the next match is Tony Falk.
Hey, can I interject really quickly?
Yeah.
I think that jobber was the Yellow Jacket. I think maybe
that matches his garb.
Yeah. There's an easy way to do this. Give me just a second.
It's probably just some guy they.
No, now it's in my head, and I really.
Yeah.
You just got me thinking about. Was that guy like the U.S. Patriot, the one that Coco Ware just like beat the crap out of?
I don't know.
And then as he's pinning him, he just like slaps him in the face.
I don't know.
Oh God, Coco, like gave that guy what for?
Oh, that guy got wrecked by Coco.
Like when he did the clothesline, it's just like meat on meat. It's like, oh, that guy just got concussed.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The Yellow Jacket.
Does he have a Does he have a profile? Like, do we know who was under the mask by any chance? Or is he
don't. I don't. Look, he's wearing black jogging pants, a long sleeved yellow shirt, and like a giant machine mask.
Yeah, the mask doesn't fit particularly well either.
Yeah, like he gets an arm drag on Angle, and then Angle suplexes him, and that's it.
Yeah.
So looking up on Wikipedia, it's telling me allegedly the Yellow Jacket was also known as Kevin Christian, also known as Kevin Lawler. Allegedly, Jerry's real life son.
Must not have lasted very long then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feel for him.
So then we go to the next week. So this is, I'm going to try and do this as sequentially as possible, but some of these aren't dated. So this one is this is like he comes back out, he kind of apologizes, said he was a little he said feeling a little testy last week because people were kind of cutting him down in the back. So this week he has a challenger, which is Tony Falk, who I'm pretty sure, did he train Michaels?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Was it
like I know the name.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And I love Tony Falk because he comes out in the dumpiest gear like humanly possible.
So great. It's so great. He shows up in this one with the worst looking stuff. And
his leg, he got this like weird like sleeves on his leg, like tattoos. It was really weird looking.
Let's see.
So this
Falk. Go.
He lasts about what, like 10 seconds longer than
basically, yeah.
The Yellow Jacket does. And then this turns into Angle gets jumped, and then there's some back and forth. I can't. The video quality is really bad, and I didn't really recognize who a lot of the run-ins were unless they happened to say them.
Yeah, so I didn't. Not necessarily this video, but in one of these videos, there actually was they threw out the name like Chris Cannonball, and I'm like, wait, and I looked, and it is 100% Carl Willett, aka PCO.
Oh, nice.
I guess he had like a little stint in this company too.
Well, they were kind of partnered with. They were kind of partnered with WWE because, like, Steve Bradley was like, who's in a couple of these, who's like kind of nothing, but if you played like EWR or like any of those like Sims in the early 2000s, like, or if you like read any developmental results, like you know that name.
Hmm.
He was just that guy that was there forever. Like Vic Grimes, I think, was in the system at that time because I think he shows up for like what Key, who was like Albert's like tattoo guy or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Friend of the show, Justin is like, how can you love awful dumpy gear and hate Cole Raddick? Because
he
Cole
has
Raddick
a
has a potato body.
yes, yes, like Cole Raddick does it in such a way that it's supposed to be enraging, but he does have a potato body.
And that's what Tony Falk does in this match, is that it is some of the most cheesy loser gear, and I loved it. You know,
How old is he? How old is Tony Falk in this? He looks ancient.
Oh, he's got to be old.
he does. He might have
He's
been one of
probably
those
like
people.
50. Like he's probably not even that old.
He might have been one of those people who was born at like 47 years old too.
I think he's always looked old.
But he comes out here. He's doing this. He has the mannerisms down for being a chump, and I enjoyed that so much. It's not the same thing, but kind of how much fun the Outrunners are. You know, he comes out and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do the thing," and he does the clap. And he's got his stupid gear. We're gonna do this, and and you just look at him and you're like, oh, you're gonna die. And I loved it because you have to buy in to be able to do that well, and he did such a great job. I loved it so much.
So allegedly Tony Falk was born in 1961. So he would have been
He would have
He would have
39,
probably
38.
I've seen something else that said he was born in 1957. Let's assume the older date.
That's still 40s.
So he would have been 40s. Yeah. But he looked older than that. So I didn't even know about this guy, but I guess
I've known the name
I guess
from. I've seen him in like, he pops up as like a
So I
guy
guess
in
he
like
was
world class or stuff every now and then.
he was in Continental.
Yeah.
And he did a gimmick called Boy Tony, which was a ripoff of Boy George, and he's got a total like Adrian Street, Adrian Adonis gimmick thing going on. It's
Wrestle, chameleon.
We have to remember though that like 40 used to look a lot older than 40 does now.
It's true.
Because
I'm dead.
Because I look back, because I tell myself like, you're just saying that because you were young and everyone looked old. But I look at old pictures and like, because I'm 43 and like most of my friends are in their 40s now. It's like, we do not look that old. Like there are people in their 50s that look younger than people in their 40s back then. Like I think it's the smoking that really made the difference.
Like when John Tenta had his feud with Hogan, he was
like 26.
what, like around, yeah, he was in his late 20s.
Yeah.
But you look at him and you're like, are you sure about that? And that's not a dig on John Tenta either. I love John Tenta.
No, I hate it because it makes his death so much more tragic because he was like 42 or 43. It's awful.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm in my early 40s, and I got to tell you, with the exception of a little weight around my middle, because I got a thyroid thing, I'm a beastly good-looking man, you know?
Let's see.
But
so what's I'm just looking this up to see what we gotta do sequentially. Okay, so let's do the Wolfie D match next because I don't know when that happened. So this I feel like something didn't work with this match. Like they did not click well at all, and there was some slop in there that their ends. This match didn't work well.
You know what though? I didn't mind the match. Like it's like a 4 or 5 minute match. It was over relatively quickly. I agree. Like there was some like, I don't know, maybe just like some miscommunication, but I did feel like they were both kind of sort of trying. They just
Well, I mean,
really
Wolfie's a
didn't figure
good
it out.
Wolfie D's a good worker. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he would get a ton of credit, but like PG-13 was a good tag team. I think he was better than Jamie Dundee
D.
for the
Yeah, I
most
would agree.
part. I just think that I think they just didn't mesh well.
Mm.
So I think that there's a lot of people that forget that sometimes you just have people that don't gel. Kevin Owens and AJ Styles are both very good, but they just don't work well together in the ring. It's not like they suck. It's not like they're bad. It just doesn't go well together. And sometimes sometimes you just have a stinky match because the guy that you're in there with and you don't, the pieces just don't go together.
Sometimes you both act like you have two left feet at the same time.
It's weird to have that happen because you're like, I know that I am better than this. What the hell is going on? But it's like the two of you keep getting in each other's way and throwing off each other's rhythm.
Or like you throw that punch exactly where it should be, and somehow their face is there. Or like the same thing happens with you. It's like you just like you're speaking two different languages.
You're going to do a clothesline, and it's a half step before you were ready for it, or you're a half step behind it because for whatever reason, right? Like I could see it being like, the guy whips you into the ropes and you come back and you are always used to meeting the guy in the center of the ring for that clothesline. But this is somebody who likes to take a couple of steps from the other side and come in with it. And whenever that happens, you're expecting it here. Let me adjust for my camera. You're expecting it here, but they're here. And so you get there and then you've got this half step of like, oh God, what the, and then it hits you and you bump like a sack of crap. It's just sometimes things don't mesh. And you know what?
It was probably a good learning experience for him, honestly.
It's fine to have that because if you're gonna have people you don't mesh with, then you're gonna have people you mesh with very well. And I would rather have the highs and lows than just the flat constant on that,
Well, I think too this though is where training like this is better than what NXT does because they didn't rehearse it and he was in there with a vet that could kind of be like, hey, look, this isn't working, but just settle down, we'll get through this. And I think he probably learned some stuff from this and he didn't like panic or anything. Like it just didn't work. So we're gonna go to the next one. So this is his first Steve Bradley match. Which this one's from like the middle of April of that year? Yeah, 4/10/99. So this is for like what were they calling it? Like the Young Guns title and like also cameo from Harvey Wiffleman as Downtown Bruno. But they had a big trophy, which I guess was the title or whatever. So this one's kind of Angle showed a little more vulnerability in this one, I thought. But ultimately, he pretty much gets the better of Steve Bradley, and then Bradley like leaves and cuts a promo, and it ends by countout, essentially. And this really, I think Matt commented on this one, but like man, like Steve Bradley really looked just out of place in the ring with Kurt Angle.
Yeah. The thing about Steve Bradley, and he didn't really do much, really. He had a developmental deal, and I looked him up because I wanted to know a little more. And it's a tragic end. Like he didn't actually even live that many more years after this. Like,
oh, how old was he when he died?
Oh, let me look up what like 30 maybe.
Oh wow, what did he die of?
I don't know that it was official, but basically,
did he someone like alcohol?
It's assumed to be a drug. He was found like at a parking lot or something.
Oh wow.
Next to where he had like across the street from like where he had a wrestling school. Believed to be a drug overdose. I think that's at least that's suspicion because like he had been arrested like in like a week prior or a month prior, sometime within like days of his death. he'd been arrested for like possession of heroin. So it's like,
Oh wow.
yeah. I mean, I could see where this is going, but
Yeah, that
uh,
never ends well.
yeah, and I feel bad because I did not necessarily care for him
No,
in this
he's
stuff.
I don't know why he had a developmental deal, honestly, because like I watched the couple of things he's in, and like he's not terrible. Like when he's wrestling, it's like, okay, you're technically fine, but there's something that's just really bland and too indie about him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I did see him, uh, he seemed very like late 90s, early 2000s, like indie guy, where it's like that's exactly the sort of guy that
You'd see an
I
NWA Wildside wrestling Silky Boom Boom or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, but it's also the type of guy that they kind of liked for a period of time, where he had a very like bland, like cookie cutter look.
Or he'd
But
be that guy at like 496 in the PWI 500 between the Japanese pool boy and Cabana Dan.
don't disrespect Cabana Dan. I've seen Cabana Dan actually do matches live, and he's actually like entertaining.
But he got like
Uh,
he had a weird career arc though, because he went from like a total joke, got like super fit, and kind of had like a
yeah,
career resurgence.
yeah. I think he still does work. He still does stuff in the indies. It's funny because when I saw him, it was when he was like in his like fat pudgy period. He was kind of more of a
Hmm.
joke wrestler, but it was actually fun because he would basically come to the ring like he would wrestle like barefoot, but he would come in like in flip flops and chanclas. So like that was part of like his gimmick where he would like incorporate like using the chanclas to like attack his opponent with them, and it was really funny. But
Have you seen
I like
have you
Bannerman.
seen, speaking of meme wrestlers, have you seen Caveman Ugg before?
I have seen Caveman Ugg.
Oh, I love Caveman Ugg. He's so ridiculous.
I almost want to say. I almost want to say that I actually have seen him live because many years. This is like 10 years ago. This is like way before kids, maybe even before I was actually like married to my wife and we're still just dating. But we went at like because we live in the DC area. Like National Stadium has section nearby
Hmm.
called and uh, they basically it's like almost like this walled off section full of like that's walled off by like shipping containers. But you
Hmm.
can go out there like before or after games and just like drink, hang out, whatever like that. But they did an event there, and for some reason there was like lucha libre matches, and I was like, I have to go to this. And I mean, it's like maybe like it was like two lucha matches that lasted like 5 minutes. It was just like an excuse. But I'm pretty almost sure that Caveman Doug was one of them because how many other like caveman gimmicks are out there? Nothing. But I'm aware of him. I'm sure I've seen it many years ago, many years ago.
You know what? You know what I'm obsessed with, and stupid Justin got me obsessed with it. That
Mhm.
that Ugandan backyard promotion.
Soft
SGW.
ground,
Yes, I
yeah, soft
love it.
ground Uganda.
It is like their Twitter is hilarious. Like because it's like translated. It's like because they have like a guy called Lord White that's just like a colonizer, and then like Lord White met his untimely death, and he's just like laid out in like a field. It's so
Mhm.
hilarious. And they had what was it, like a creek match or something
A
where like
pond
yeah,
match.
guy power bombs one guy into the water and like climbs out, and all these people are like celebrating with like flags and stuff. It's amazing. And
I watched.
they
I
spent
Yeah,
money
watched.
to
go
get
ahead.
Shima there. They got Shima to come out for a show.
Did
I
they pay him or like he just come
I don't know.
because
He was there though.
Mason yeah
Yeah, Mason Mansour were there.
yeah they just showed up and after his I think after his match with Bryan Danielson or recently uh Will commented like mentioned them like name dropped them and it's like yeah
Yeah.
I want to go to there and he's obviously one of the big stars in wrestling at the moment so they're kind of blowing up but yeah
There's a certain wholesomeness to it, and the fact that it's straight up just kind of a for the love of the game approach.
Mhm.
And also in the pond match, I was absolutely in tears watching that because it gets to the end. I didn't even have the sound on, but one of them says something to the other guy, and the guy shakes his head, and he takes him, and he just shoves his head underwater and thrashes him back and forth, and brings him up and says something. The guy shakes his head, and he shoves his head under there again, and I'm dying because it's like, well, of course you do that.
I laughed, and then I'm like, oh my god, how many parasites are in that water?
Kind of had that thought.
Yeah, but no, it's the wholesomeness. It's like it's how much fun everyone is having. Like there's something infectious about it. And I think it's the tweets like that are obviously like gone through Google Translate, so there's a certain like clunky like B movie vibe to it.
The overly articulate kind of thing.
And they like some of the gimmicks are like really good. Like I said, like the Lord White thing is like hilarious. But like it's a well thought out gimmick.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and I saw him cutting a promo at one point. I was like, wow, that is a super dickbag promo.
and it's also like a different country, so like they're obviously not worried about being PC at all, which kind of like has that old school vibe of wrestling, because that's one of those things when people get really kind of pearl clutchy with wrestling. I'm like, wrestling's kind of supposed to be trashy. Like if they're not offending someone somewhere, like they're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yes,
it's yeah.
Steve Bradley's just too indie, and I feel bad now that Matt said he died, because now I feel bad for crapping on him. But
He
Well,
died in 2000. So, yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so
I feel bad for him. He was very kind of and very like of the time what the WWE was into. Like they were into a guy like cookie cutter, like nondescript kind of bland.
yeah.
Yeah.
He feels like a guy that would have been on like Saturday Night in like 1998 that would never like show up on Nitro.
There was a certain aspect in that time period where it seemed like everybody, like all of the guys that weren't signed to big companies, worked exactly the same way. And it was like they thought that if I work like this, I can get picked up, and then I can change what I do to match what they want. And I'm like, the problem is that if you do the same thing as everybody else and you have kind of the same general look as everybody else, then what makes you stand out among everybody else?
That's I think his problem, because like if you were to rate him out of like a 10, I'd be like, he's like a 6.5. And
Yeah.
and it's like 6.5 doesn't get you like anywhere, like because I think his problem is he's competent. He's not like super charismatic, but he's not void of charisma. And the problem is like when you're super competent, but not like you don't excel at anything, then you're not memorable, because you don't even have like being bad to be like. Because like, because even like compared to Stasiak, like he's a far better wrestler than Stasiak in the ring, but Stasiak has like some bit of charisma to him that makes him like memorable.
You look at Stasiak and the way he moves and that sort of stuff, and it ends out.
Yeah.
So
So we're gonna go to the next match, which actually I think I like the second best. So this is Kurt Angle versus Vic Grimes, and so this one they kind of do like they do some Greco-Roman stuff, which I like this one because Angle emoted a lot in this. Like he showed some real frustration, like when they were doing the amateur stuff. And this obviously turns into Vic just like kicks him and attacks him. And then they do a sick belly to belly suplex on the outside where Vic just takes this like nasty bump on the cement. I thought that looked pretty awesome. And this was like a super energetic match. Vic was a great opponent for him because he was experienced. He could bump for him, and I think it really like they did some stuff to really let Angle do character stuff. And he was really great at the character stuff because remember, he's only like a year in at this point. And I've seen people that have been doing it for like on the indie scene have been doing it forever, and they still think like mean mugging is a personality. I'll use Nyla Rose as a great example of someone that has not figured out how to like put personality into the ring, which she frustrates me because she's so hilarious everywhere else. and then she gets in the ring, and it's just kind of like, where's you?
The thing that I learned from when I was wrestling was everybody always parrots the same line that says the best gimmicks are just outcroppings of something of your personality.
Or it's like, as Jim Cornette used to joke, the Freebirds had to tone it down for the in-ring stuff.
I discovered I got the best, I got the most out of a gimmick where it was not me, just me out there. It was me putting on this character, and then so the thought, part of what I had to do is the thought process of, all right, this guy's a giant dickbag. Why would he do this dickbag thing right now? And so, like, there was a thought out process to everything I did to get people to hate my guts. And it wasn't just like, even when I was doing a mean mugging bodyguard gimmick, the whole idea behind it was that it was the mean mug behind the big mouth. So there are like two pieces to it. It wasn't just, I'm your mean guy. It's like there was a contrast to it to make it, to make it memorable.
I think Virgil always had like the best mean mug. Because like when Ted DiBiase be cutting his promo and he just be there scowling, like just kind of like flipping through the money, like I always thought that was great, because there's Grant Pachoco, who does the Solo Promoter YouTube channel. I think when Virgil died, I don't know if he told the story on his YouTube channel or he just mentioned it. He said he was a kid and he was going to a show, and Ted DiBiase and Virgil were in the car behind him. And he was looking out the back, and he said it shattered the whole thing for him, because Ted DiBiase was talking to Virgil and Virgil was talking back to him.
Yeah.
I think that's true in some cases, but I don't think it's true in other cases, because there's some guys that have said like they were doing like something completely antithetical to themselves, like they were doing the complete opposite. And I mean, like even like stuff like, I mean, Undertaker really never, like if you watch like Undertaker in interviews and stuff, I mean, I know he's an old man now, but like I never saw like any real part of like Undertaker, like Mark Calloway in any of his stuff, because he's just kind of like I don't know he's kind of like a mundane individual, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's just like a normal guy.
He was a big, every interview I have seen, put it that way. Like, if you want to, you can use Hot Ones as a good example. He's a big dude.
He just likes, he's like a good old boy from Texas that likes his MMA and like his beer, and he seems like he was, like, I know like a lot of people have stories, like I think Lance Archer said, hey, I walked up to him in a gym once and asked him a question, and he like talked to me for like 15 minutes when he didn't have to. He just seems like, I don't know, like a normal guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about Adrian Street not that long ago, and Adrian, it sure seemed like he put on a gimmick with the intent of pissing people off.
He seems though, like with Adrian, I think he was cranking up his rebellion against his father and his like life circumstances as a young man. Like, I think his whole career was like about, fuck that coal mine, I'm out. Like, I think that like fueled his character for the whole time. So I think that was what it was born
the fuel,
of.
but it's still a character he was putting on.
And he was like, I think he's an interesting gimmick though, because it's really weird to get like a counterculture gimmick in wrestling, and he was very like, he's very counterculture at the time.
Yeah. I had someone asking me about it the other day, and I told them, I said, looking back, one of the things I wish I had done was be more goofy. Because I don't know why I got my head stuck on the whole serious thing, but that probably would have been the part of me dialed up that people would have liked, is that if I had been a little goofy and just indulged in silliness and doing some goofy stuff, people probably would have enjoyed it. But like I said, of what I did, the best thing I got was not. It was just a character I put on. Now the thing that's great in this for Angle is, I think that aw shucks American boy thing was decently close to how he purported himself, so it wasn't a stretch or anything. But then, you got to see, as we went, we got to see a little more frustration and a little that killer instinct that wins you a gold medal come out too.
Yeah, so the next match is probably my favorite one of this set. So this is Kurt Angle challenging JR Smooth, aka Rikishi, for the Power Pro Wrestling title. And I thought this is a really short match, but I thought this was a great match for its time. Like, they really keep an upbeat tempo. He shows a little bit of selling. Rikishi's just a great worker.
People don't give Rikishi enough credit. I mean,
no,
the guy
like
kind of
gimmick. I don't know why WWE didn't use this gimmick, because I liked it. Like the JR Smooth thing, like from the bit I saw, I'm like, wow, this is like a. I think it was a little too urban and street for Vince, honestly. But like, I was like, this is a good gimmick. Like, he could have gotten some mileage out of this in WWE.
Well, the better gimmick than when he is with that, like Rikishi. Maybe it was even like before the Sultan.
No, this is the Sultan was 97. This is probably like 3 months before he came back to the WWE as just the Rikishi character. Because I think him and Angle showed up at about the same time. Because they both show up in like November of 99, I think. Because they kind of had Rikishi doing, I guess, just some standard big man matches, and then he did the whole like dancing with Too Cool, and that's kind of where he kind of caught on pretty quick.
He tried to be a killer master too.
Could you say that again, Matt? You broke up.
He tried to be him and slow.
Sorry, folks, I'm having some technical difficulties.
Yeah,
I think
a little bit.
I think I froze the joke back. He almost lost in
oh yeah. Oh yeah,
for the people.
That was such a stupid reveal as him.
I did for us, Rock. Did it for the people.
They killed him with that. They killed him with that heel turn too.
Yeah, that was a terrible idea. This big happy guy that does the fun dance stuff, and then, by the way, he's also a really big dude, so he kind of happens to kick ass in the ring.
They ruined, and they kind of they did the same thing with 2 Minute Warning. Like, I never would have really had them wrestle other than jobbers. Like, that kind of killed their heat, like, because the 2 minute thing was cool.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even that they were wrestlers, they were enforcers at that point. And so, what are you paying them for? You're not paying them to have matches. You're paying them to, oh God, we're not putting up with this. Go put an end to it.
Funny fact, Rosie from 2 Minute Warning did wrestle in Power Pro Wrestling. Fun fact. Now, what I liked here, so what I did like about this match too, though, is Angle is a good old boy, like a good, the all-American boy, and he's a bit naive, but I like in this match that he's not dumb. Like, when it comes time, like, he uses the belt, and he makes sure to knock the manager out. Like, he was smart about it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who to lay the blame of this on. But for the longest time, it seemed like that to be a babyface in wrestling, number one, you couldn't have any friends, and number two, you had to be a moron.
Well, the friends
And
thing has always been a Vince thing, because anytime we've watched like WCW, the faces always have
yeah,
friends.
the idea of, like, I understand the idea is I want to stand on my own 2 feet and do this myself. It's like, that's fine. But if this guy always shows up with 3 friends and you show up by yourself anyway, then you're not standing on your own feet. You're a moron walking into a trap. And the fact that Angle did the face thing properly. It was, I wasn't, I was playing it straight. This other guy tried to cheat, so I did it to give him his comeuppance. So it was not Kurt Angle cheated. It was Kurt Angle turned the tables on them.
Yeah.
And that's good. But oh God, it kills me the fact that we don't get that. For a lot of wrestling, we didn't get that.
It's sad that I have to point out to myself almost every time that a face just isn't pants on head stupid to myself. Be like, oh, they did something kind of smart there.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with Hogan. Like, people talk about when they look back on Hogan, they're like, man, Hogan was kind of a jerk as a baby face and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but go watch Bugs Bunny cartoons. Like, Bugs Bunny was like a jerk too. Like, that's kind of like, it's a very like American like type of
being mean to the bad guy lets the viewer vicariously be mean to that person that was bad to them.
Yeah.
I just got, this past weekend, I got my boys to and it's not like there's been an issue with doing it. I just hadn't. They watched the Bugs Bunny Elmer Fudd Barber of Seville.
Oh yeah.
And they just got the biggest laugh out of that. And it's like, well, of course you did. But having, in hindsight, like at the time, I liked Hogan because, of course, I did. I was right in the target demographic. But looking back at it with Hogan as a face, I still don't. I don't love the character. I mean,
no. I like him better in like the AWA when he doesn't have the WWE cartoon on him, and it's more grounded. Like, that's a better version of Hogan, but like it's a little too cornball. Like, I respect him a lot more as a worker now, but like the gimmicks kind of just whatever. So then we go to pretty much to do an angle where Jim Cornette shows up and costs Angle the title. And it's him and Steve Bradley cutting a promo on TV, which I thought this was pretty decent. I just threw it in there because it had to do with him losing the title. And then on top of that, I found a news segment where like the local Memphis station did like a thing on Power Pro Wrestling, and Angle was actually working with a news anchor, and I thought it was just an interesting little look into Kurt Angle, the person.
It was interesting. First off, my eyebrows raised because they started off with like basically a report of Owen Hart's death.
Yeah.
At the Over the Edge pay-per-view, and then it's like, oh, but this past weekend, like our local sports anchor, like actually showed up at the rally, and it's like, oh my god, like what a segue.
Yeah.
But the guy was basically like, yeah, he got into like I guess probably the Power Pro ring and was doing spots with Angle, and Angle was like almost like he's like a trainer, even though he probably had like what, a year of experience at this point.
Not even that at that point. He probably had like,
yeah,
I bet he had 8 to 10 months.
Yeah, so he was like basically like walking the guy through doing a couple spots. But it was actually pretty cool because like he actually like had the guy like body slam him. Which it's like, oh, that guy actually
Angle went up good for that.
Yeah, he did. I was like, wow, okay. Because I mean, Shad, you've done this. I've never done it. Like, I don't intend to do it, but I mean, I don't know. I've never been body slammed or body slammed someone other than like my children who are, of a certain, like my oldest is like maybe 35, 36 pounds. So it's like
Yeah.
this is not difficult to body slam her if I needed to. So I don't know, but it's like yeah, I've never like gone up for a body slam. I don't know how.
So
If I need to, like, I can't, obviously I wouldn't intentionally try to sandbag someone, but it's also like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But this Kurt Angle must have known what to do, because he let the guy pick him up. I think it was like a nice body slam. Then the guy,
Cor- Cornette talks about this with Bobby Lashley, just to give you an idea, because a lot of guys do sandbag.
Yeah.
The first time Bobby Lashley was gonna body slam him for something, Lashley almost killed Cornette because Cornette goes up super easy for slams, and Bobby Lashley had never had anyone go up easy for him, and almost like just dropped him on his head because he didn't know what to do because there was no weight there.
Yeah, like overshot him almost.
Yeah. A well done body slam, the guy taking it is able to take so much off of the guy giving you the slam. I know I told the story before, but I worked a match with Ronnie Roberts, and when I did, Ronnie Roberts was on OVW. I think he was OVW Tag Champion for a while. I picked him up to do a scoop slam. I did a three spot little sequence. Did a hip toss, scoop slam, side Russian leg sweep, and then I floated over into a cover. If you can take a good hip toss ain't nothing. But then I picked him up for the scoop slam, and I'm just moving like here, up, and over, and go to put him down. And it's just like I'm moving my arms. I know I'm doing this visually, but I'm just moving my arms, and it feels like there's nothing there. People would be surprised that I could and would, I didn't even have to post off for doing a hip toss. I could just go into a hip toss and just do the bump. Most people have to post off for it. Or, I could go up for a body slam. I would go up, and then the biggest thing that would happen is whenever I get up there is I'm just like, okay, well, you're not tucking my head, well, I'm going to have to take this part over. But I think what happened there is Angle told him how to move his hands and then did the work. The thing I love the most about this is that Angle kept everything slightly kayfabe. Because he's like, oh no, when you take a bump, you're doing it so that it doesn't hurt you as much. And you can keep going. And I'm like, I see what you're doing there. I just enjoyed that because he doesn't ever say it's so you don't get hurt. It's like, well, so when you're in there having that match, this is so it doesn't hurt as much and you keep going.
There's a funny story. I think it's on one of the WWE things. It's like Big Show and a couple of guys talking. I think it's like Mark Henry and Big Show talking about like the strongest guys they wrestled. Big Show said he used to hate wrestling Kane because Kane would pick him up to slam him. And he said Kane would just hold on to him for a really long time, and he'd be getting upset. And you just hear under the mask, he's like, ha, 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 ha. Because he would just do it to screw with him.
Yeah. Just keep him up there, and it's like, put me down, damn it. Put me down, damn it. Come on.
Yeah.
I bounced my head like a basketball once when I was in training because, you guys never met him, but Duke Allstriker was not. He was shorter than me, but he was like a bigger dude. He was broader. And he took me up in a rock bottom, and we go up there, and I go up, and I'm expecting to go up and come back down, and I'm up there, and he stops, and I'm like ready for it. And then I stuck my head out and went, why am I still, oh God! And then just all of a sudden I went down. I was like, why am I still up here? What's going, and that's when I started going down. So I had taken myself out of it because, I was getting held up there.
Yeah.
But.
So then we have a bonus match / low point of the night. So this is from Memphis Championship Wrestling, which, fun fact, I used to get like results emails from them back in the day while they were still around because I was a super fan at the time and I signed up for it. So that's where I think the Dups, Charlie Haas and RC Haas were there. If you don't know, RC Haas tragically died around that time. I think it was RC Haas and Russ Haas. He changed his name to
It was Russ and Charlie.
Yeah.
And he changed it to RC so it would be both their names.
Yeah. Then like Ron Killings is like whatever his name was at the time, K Crush. It was like all those guys that you remember from developmental back in the early days. So this is Triple H versus Kurt Angle in like Jonesboro, Arkansas, I think is what they said. Fun fact: there is like a Benoit versus Kurt Angle match, I think, in the Mid South Coliseum that drew like 4,000 around this time. So this is like a 14-minute match, and I did not like it.
It's not good.
No.
It is plotting, is the term that I kept coming up with.
That's a perfectly fair way of describing it. Like Brad and I were talking about it a little bit before the show tonight, and the best way I can describe this, it's almost just like a throwaway, like late '90s Raw main event between Kurt Angle and Triple H, but it's even like they're like, we're not in front of like the cameras, big crowds, so let's dial it down by a factor of like 10. So it is just like kind of plotting. It's there. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a terrible match, but it's not good. It's not.
I felt like Triple H didn't give a shit. Like it felt like he didn't want to do anything.
Clearly didn't give. Look, I don't do these outlaw mud shows. I'm a big time worker.
Wait,
Matt,
you didn't invented WrestleMania.
Matt, you didn't do that. I don't like doing these small shows, cause I am the game. You know, I don't understand how he's able to stick an extra syllable on everything.
He's gotta stop to breathe. I don't know. It just what's that joke you used to make, Shad? Like, let's start slow and.
Oh, let's start slow and taper off from there.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
That was.
Well, then like he has to be Triple H, and he like sandbags the local guys that like jump him afterwards, because he can't look bad for like 5 seconds. Like,
I mean, that one doesn't bother me. The local guys run in there. By the way, at least one of the local guys is Bryan Danielson.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
And the other two were other names that they didn't stick, because I saw that's Danielson, and then I looked up who the other two were. Someone said it in the comments or something like that.
Danielson looks like a serial killer without his beard.
Well, it was in his kind of bowl cut days, so it was before that first Ring of Honor main event where that was the first time I saw Danielson, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's the first time I saw him, and I was like, this guy's got something. But I understand, like, the local guys come running in, and you're like, hey, I've been, you know, I've been like main eventing big shows on national pay-per-view and stuff. I'm not going to. I was like, okay, I get that, but you know, give them a little bit. It's three guys wailing on you. Give them a little bit more.
Yeah, at least, or have them like banana peel into each other, at least to get like the upper hand. It was a lot of him like throwing Angle out of the ring, and then a lot of like mat work that just kind of did nothing. I don't know what I expected from the match, but it wasn't good.
It felt like there was too much space between them doing stuff. One of them would do something, and then it would be like, all right, well, I guess I'll follow that up with this. And then one of them would do something. It's like, well, okay, guess we're gonna do this now. And it's just like, dang, I don't love this, you know.
No, and this would have been like, was it like April of 2001? So this was like right before he tore his quad, because that would have been in May.
I think it's. Oh, that's a good question. I would have figured this is before, because when he tore his quad, he came back. He was just like ridiculously bloated from steroids. He might as well when he showed up, it's like he might as well have he could have been in the back like hooking himself up to like a helium tank.
Here's a joke.
Ridiculously flowing with roided out muscles he was.
Matt, you fed directly into a great joke that I was going to make for friend of the show, Justin. The whenever Triple H came back and he got in the ring, everyone was all concerned because they'd never fought a balloon animal before. But that return, favorite Kurt Angle promos, and it's this throwaway little promo, but it cracks me up. It's like, oh, he tore his quad and he's back now. I don't care. I tore my quad this morning. I'm here. I'm jumping around. Look at me. I'm fine.
That was a good one.
I was just like, that's awesome.
So I thought he's an interesting rookie. Like, it really, what I took away from a lot of this is how bad NXT is at their job currently, and like how you see these trainees doing stuff they have no business doing, and like rehearsing matches, and like the lack of improvement. And with this, like, you could just see the improvement week to week with Angle. And they were really careful with him. They made sure he was comfortable. Like, they really did a lot to like set him up for success.
One of the things that carried over even into that last match that's jumped out at me is a lot of the core of Kurt Angle's style seemed to remain constant. Like, his style didn't go through like a whole overhaul and get changed or anything. I mean, it worked. It didn't need to be, so they left that alone. One other, not to, I'm not trying to toot my own horn too much again, but watching Kurt Angle stuff makes me look back in retrospect and go, why, oh why did I not use the Angle Slam? I 100% should have been using the Angle Slam, but I wasn't using it. Why the hell? What was wrong with me? Why wasn't I? I don't know.
I kept waiting to see if he was going to break it out in any of these matches, and he never did.
I was looking for it too. And so I'm curious what the genesis of that move was. Like, who came up with that? Where did it come from?
Yeah, because he did it in his first WWE match, because that was his like finisher from the start. So they must have just given it to him when he like came up.
He had been. I remember reading reports because he did like dark matches on the tours for like a year before he was on TV, and everyone referred to him using the term everyone I keep using was the whirling fireman's carry, and it's like, well, it's not, but it's kind of hard to put another name. I refer to it more as a whirling Samoan drop than anything else, but that's still not even quite the right thing for it.
I feel like a fireman's carry is more like you don't
up and over.
Yeah, like you don't hold them on your shoulder. Really.
No. So
I tend to think of a fireman's carry too as like you're on your knees usually. Like but I mean that's an old school move, I guess. I would have to see like.
I mean, technically it's a fireman's carry takeover.
Yeah.
And if really wanted to pick nits, then John Cena's attitude adjustment is an elevated fireman's carry.
Yeah, he doesn't really carry
from the shoulders and then up and over. Whereas a fireman's carry takeover, they're here, and I use this one in my grappling days. They're here, you pull them across your shoulders and flip their legs over that way. Again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be visual. You pull them across head first and then push their torso or their pelvis. You push their pelvis up to kind of flip them over your body. And the Angle Slam isn't really that. So maybe a whirling back suplex, but even that doesn't really work.
Yeah. So Matt, what did you think of I guess pre-WWE Kurt Angle?
It was like a lot of stuff that we review for the show that I've not seen before. It's enlightening. Personally, I would say like it kind of I've always appreciated Angle. Is he like an absolute favorite of mine? That's a complicated answer to that, just because I loved him in like late 90s, early 2000s WWE, WWF, WWE. And then I didn't watch him as much when he moved to TNA. But I loved him back at the time. And there are people who would say like he's one of the best of all time, and I just don't know if he has the overall body of work, even though he's great. He's certainly like the best last, like, let's say 25 years. But it did make me appreciate him in the respect that even like pre-WWE, when he like debuted like almost like as like it was such a breath of fresh air. That's like this new guy who immediately could hang in the main event scene. And they pushed him. I think he won the title like the first year of his.
It was pretty early.
Yeah, he won it in 2000, I think.
Yeah, I think
He
it was like No
was
Mercy 2000 in the fall. Like I think it was October, maybe 2000.
he was the Euro Continental Champion before that.
Because I think
yeah.
I think Triple H made sure to do something to cut his balls off. I mean, the whole like love triangle thing they screwed up.
Yeah.
Now,
But
for me, I do have one nit to pick with him that like really I struggle with him with is the whole complaining about that SummerSlam match with Eddie to the office that he was selling too much. That's where I have a hard bias against Angle for that.
What?
He got upset that Eddie was selling too much because he wanted to do more moves. So I've always kind of had a little bit of an issue with him over that. I mean, but yeah. So what were you gonna say, Matt? I just wanted to toss that in there while we were kind of.
well, so I prefaced all that just by saying that watching this did kind of enlighten me that Angle was kind of always good, because everything I saw here, I mean, like first year basically of his existence as a wrestler, and you can't say like he's not putting on his 4-minute match with like Steve Bradley, whatever. It's not a 4-star, 5-star match. It's just a match. But
I mean, it shouldn't be though. If you're trying to put on a 5-star match with 5 minutes of work, like you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, but it showed me like he actually is just like one of those rarities, one of those. And this term has been used like and abused like so much, but he was kind of like a generational talent. It's like he grasped the aspects of pro wrestling, the things that he needed to do, like aspects even, like working the crowd, working your opponent, like selling, doing moves at the right point. Like and this is he's like baby Angle, like he's still a extreme rookie, but he grasped a lot of like those little things, like right off the bat, like where it's not like look, like the WWE has just like released certain people in the last like week from their contracts that have been there like for years, like
Von Wagner.
Von Wagner. Like I hate to like beat up on her necessarily, but like Xia Li, the Chinese worker, she had been there years, and just it's not entirely her fault, because like I think she got bad gimmicks, but it's also like you were there years and you just never.
They gave her build a title match with Becky though, and she still didn't.
Yeah,
show anything.
I guess my point is that there are people who do this, or even do it in developmental or train for years and just can't grasp it. And this is a guy that's like it was from the very beginning, like the first year. It's like you could tell he got it, like full on got it.
I mean, how long has Lash Legend been there and she still sucks? Like, just absolutely like, or Mojo Rawley. They had him for like a decade and he still didn't. Get it.
I personally felt he was absolutely terrible, and he never did much even on the main roster. And that's the case with a lot of guys. Like even the guys that they bring up to the main roster, it's like it's no for sure thing that they're actually going to do anything. Sometimes it's like they're good workers, they just never got anything
like
to do.
Trevor Lee, like they wasted 6 years of his career, and I don't think he ever got more than a couple of SmackDown matches.
Yeah, as we record this, April 23rd, like Trevor Lee got released today. It was announced at least that he got released today. It was Cameron Grimes, and got super over in NXT, like got brought up to the main roster, and like basically was just jobbing out when he was even on TV.
Yeah,
jobbing out, and I'm sure it was probably like 4 or 5 minute matches.
I think he's mostly in dark matches. So
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it's hard to get on
6 years.
TV on SmackDown when they have
Yeah.
like 4 matches a week. So
Well, when they have like 45-minute Bloodline talk segments. So,
yeah,
but yeah, like he spent 6 years with the WWE, like his prime years. Like I think he's still relatively young. I think he still might be in his like 20s even. I'm not sure, but
oh
I think he's
Trevor,
still young. Like yeah, I think in theory like he could go, but it's also like we're also in an environment where it was kind of reported recently that Tony Khan is not necessarily going to be signing people, although it was reported like in the last day or so that he's like, oh no, he actually might still be signing people. And it's like he's not signing. I don't know
30.
that he's signing. Like he's got tons of people on the roster. Like I don't know that he would sign like Trevor Lee to a contract.
I
Would he
would.
sign?
But
Would he sign like? Well, if he signed Trevor Lee, it's almost like, look, Tony, there are guys on your roster that you should probably like let go. Like Matt Hardy seems to be gone. It's like, okay, that's a good start. Like Matt
yeah.
Hardy, no offense, great contributions to wrestling in the last like 25, 30 years, but not really like where your product is heading
But
in
I mean,
2024.
the thing with
You're gonna
Trevor Lee though
replace him with Trevor. Uh-huh.
is he's carried companies before. Like CWF Mid Atlantic got super hot with his like 2.5 year run with the belt, and it was largely built on bringing outsiders in to challenge him and try to end his like streak. And it got like hot too. It was the in promotion for a couple years, largely on his back. Like a company from like the Carolinas. Like just think
Mhm.
about like how off beat that is for that to be so popular. But they had a YouTube show and it was super, and they would smartly put their show out right after NXT, and they were drawing views because of him. And so I think he had a good run and Impact. Like I mean, I wouldn't sign basically anyone they let go, but I'd give Trevor Lee a run. I think he'd fit really well. Like he's worked with a lot of those guys before. Like I think he would.
He would be a better choice than some of the guys that they even have on the roster. Uh, but even so, I don't know that Tony Khan is like, oh, I need to absolutely sign Trevor Lee. There are guys that he could have signed from releases that happened a few months back, like Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, or Mustafa Ali, and he didn't, which to me is like it's kind of telling.
Well, he kind
And
of learned.
actually,
I feel like
mhm.
he learned from like Matt Cardona really not fitting the roster. I feel like after that one, he's always been very selective about the WWE people he signs. Like, because that's the thing. Like people don't even try to really meme that because they know it looks absurd because he doesn't really sign that many WWE guys.
Nemeth is one that in his place, I probably would have picked up, but
I think I would I would have done this and let him go to Impact for a year and see what he does and then decide from there.
maybe bring him from there. Okay.
I would agree. Like, Neem is like with him, so he's doing so much Japan. Like Neem, I mean, forwards too, but
He
that's
needs
a
to get
guy
some.
that
He's got to get the E stink off of him for a year before I would. Use
yeah,
him.
I would agree.
Fair.
Like that's a guy that it's like if I'm Tony Khan, it's like all right, like let's see how.
I want to see what you do before.
Yeah, well, use a Triple H term. Let's see if he wants to grind on out there on TNA or New Japan and be putting up matches. And at that point, after like a year, like you said, like after he gets the stink off of him, if you want to maybe bring him on, like have him do some stuff, like yeah, okay, maybe. Other guys like Mustafa Ali, like I was high on him, but then I've seen some of the stuff he's done since he got released by WWE, and I'm like, oh,
No,
actually,
he's been. I mean, it's a strong.
it's not.
It's a strong word, and I really don't mean it. But he's been trash since that first release, in my opinion. He's not been good.
I don't know that I would say trash, but it's also there's nothing special there. And it's like that actually troubles me because I actually
Whatever
thought
I had
felt
early in his career, like when he was like a
Mhm.
face, whenever they turned him heel or whatever, he's lost that and never gotten it back. It's their obsession with making guys work contrary to what they are, because like there is something like you want to like the guy, but he's never really recaptured. that charisma, and he's a good worker,
I
but
do want,
he's not
yeah,
good enough to like overcome
I
lack of charisma.
that's the problem. Like, and I do want to like him, but I felt that's like the things I've seen since he's been released, where it's like you should be really like trying like your best, put on a performance. Because even if you don't get picked up by AEW, it's like, look, New Japan lost guys, and New Japan needs talent. Like it, and guys that are especially like in like the like the junior heavyweight scene. It's like, guys, how many years are we into like uh Hiromu just dominating that division where it's like he's the
Yeah.
guy, but it's you don't have anyone really like for him, and he shouldn't even be in junior heavyweight. Like just move him up to heavyweight at this point. It's like, what else is he gonna do? Like you have the opportunity if you're a smaller guy like Ali that you could make this impact. You could absolutely like show what you can do, and I don't feel he's done it, and it bothers me because it's like I was rooting for you, and you kind of, not that you're like, I don't think I wouldn't say trash, but you're also kind of just going through the motions almost, where it's like you're not showing
He lost
me,
his
like you said,
passion
that
somewhere, I think.
maybe, but it's also like if you're like, I want a job with AEW, it's like you've shown Tony Khan like nothing when he has guys, like, I, so many guys on his roster that do it better than what you're doing now.
And there's
Like,
guys that got
e-
let go in the calling that
yeah,
like Stu Grayson, I think I would rather have over Ollie.
I don't know that I don't know that I would say that, but it's also
They're interchangeable to me. Like I don't
like
necessarily.
Ali is not something special that it's like, if you, I guess if you traded Stu Grayson for Ali, it's like, okay, that's
That's a
maybe a
net
net
neutral to me.
positive. To me, it may be like a slight positive, but it's also like, what are you gonna do with Ali?
Like
I,
just I'm gonna pull a random one. It's like, well, you can have Ollie or Evil Uno. It's like, well, I'm gonna take Evil Uno.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I almost would take Evil Uno, not because I necessarily think he's a better worker, even though he is a good. I actually do think he's a good worker, but
Hmm.
he does so much more for you in terms of like social media and
And he's over.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing why I would say Stu Grayson would not be a net neutral is if they ever decide to have Dark Order doing stuff again, Stu is tied in with them.
Yeah.
So there's built-in history there.
And
Um,
and Ali was getting like go away heat towards the end of that WWE run.
well, he was getting go away heat because they had basically dumped on him the entire time.
Yeah.
Like he got screwed by the booking, and
It's because he's small and he's brown.
it kills me because purportedly, even Vince himself said you're like the ultimate babyface. People want to like you and want to cheer for you, and we need to use that. And then what do? Not that.
No, because
It,
it's like a point of them to make you like be the opposite of what you're good at.
yeah, there was a training that we did for our staff that my work did for staff a long time ago. That was called Trombone Player Wanted, and the whole idea behind it was let's not have people in our workplace that we're trying to say you're deficient at this and invest in raising the skill up. Let's go to you are good at this. How have you thrived doing this? And it's like for a long time it seemed like the E just took this perverse pleasure of like, well, can you succeed by doing what you're not good at? And it's like, why the hell would I do that in this business?
Yeah.
If I spend all this time figuring out what I'm good at and I hone that and I do all that sort of stuff, then, like, for example, I didn't like chain wrestling. I just didn't like doing it. And then I would get there and they'd be like, well, you're going to be the chain wrestling commando. And it's like, no, this is a bad idea.
Well, it's like though, like if you got this big old like hoss, like remember when we watched the AWF and they had Tony Atlas doing the round system
Mhm.
against that jobber, and I said I hated it because I just wanted to see when they had him go long with the jobber in this round system. And I was like, I hate this. I just want to see Tony Atlas lawn dart the guy and kill him. And then maybe like look at his feet afterwards. But it's like you don't want to watch Tony Atlas like work holds and stuff. Like you want to watch Tony Atlas like manhandle some guy and do like cool power stuff. Because like that's Tony Atlas. Like that's what I don't understand. Like you don't want to see some big like you don't want to see some like big farm boy come in his overalls and watch him like try to work holds on the mat and do mat work. Like you want to see him either like brawl or like you want him to do some cool power stuff. Like there's an expectation that comes with that, and I don't understand making guys like do opposite of that. It's like when we watched I'll use another one, that Raw where like Bam Bam Bigelow was working like Italian Stallion and taking offense, and we are like, what are you doing? Like Bam Bam should just kill him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
It's
I
just
think that was the biggest key in Kurt Angle's success.
and it's like if I went to a show and I watched you, Shad, and you're wrestling a guy that's like half a foot shorter than you, and they're wanting you to chain wrestle the guy, I'd be booing you. I'd be like, boo, why is the big guy like on the mat with the small guy? Big guy should be killing small guy, and small guy should be like, it's dumb. Like it's
dumb.
Yeah. Well, I think we can call that a show for the night. I am going to say shout out to Beefy Bites and United Spacers Alliance for stopping in saying, hey, we had quite a few viewers for the night, more than I expected actually. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This will be on the audio feed like normal. We did talk to people in the chat. Like we'll figure out how to incorporate chat, I think.
We'll get there. It's just kind of rolling that into our usual flow.
I don't know what we're doing next week. We might do the Dan Severn Steven Regal match, and toss something else in there. But thanks for joining us as always. Thanks for everyone that stopped in for the YouTube show. I really appreciate it. That was a much better turnout than I thought we'd get. So this has been what we've been in 3 corners. You've been in the 4th, not the little bear thing. The bear thing.
This is Shad with Matt and Brad. We've been in 3 corners. You're in the 4th.
Bear.
Yeah,
4th corner.
You're fighting with the bear over the 4th corner.
Applause.
Yeah.
We need to add. I need more sounds on this soundboard.
We'll screw
just
with it.
An obnoxious amount of sounds.
We're going morning radio with it.
Well, thanks everyone, and we will catch you next time. Catch you next time.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.